Mm, got stuck on the mute button. Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday. Tuesday's crime. True Crime Tuesday. Hey, Charlie. Oh, hey, are you still working? Oh my gosh. But you know what? Thank you for lurking. It's nice to see you. I've missed you. I've missed seeing you around. I know you've been really, really busy, but just know you are missed. We did take note. You have. Hey, Shill. Oh, hi, Mark. Nice to see you here. Juju, you got me all riled up about the Karen Reed trial now. Like your perspective, as in, I look at it as a fresh, clean mind, as an innocent, because you've been unjaded by 2 years of propaganda that's been in. That's the only word I could think of. Like when there's a campaign to make a whole bunch of people think a certain way, I can only think propaganda. Like that's the word that comes to mind. So, I'll tell you what, just to be that, like, not exposed to all of that and have that, like, unbiased view of a case, of any trial case, not like, forget about Karen Reed, although we'll be talking about her in a little bit. Like, but any case at all would be refreshing for me because, like, no matter how I try to research it, I get exposed to the propaganda, to multimedia, you know. And I totally I just it's just mind-boggling. And I'm doing my best to be unbiased. But when it comes to the Karen Reed case, although I am covering it on the sidelines, I am very glad that I am not actually streaming it live because I will have to admit, human as I am, well, bear, human, woman wears cat ears, avatar, whatever. I could not contain myself. I would not be able to be quiet. I could not just sit there and watch all of this going on and not have to just interject constantly. And so I've been wondering if that's how a lot of the true crime lawyers feel because like they're watching and they just can't stop commenting on everything the lawyers are doing and what's happening in the courtroom and everything that's happened before and they're just like over talking the judge and everything. I get it now. I get it. And so I'm glad I'm going to have to keep making those decisions that if I get that uptight reading it, I better not stream it. Like it's like a new rule. It's my new golden rule. Like maybe that'll keep me out of some trouble. Like maybe, right? Just maybe. Hey, Record, thanks for the ordering. I really do appreciate a good ordering. Thank you. All right. Hey, Charlie. I know the PC is dead and I'm so sorry, but thank goodness you have your phone. Just like old days, right, Charlie? Isn't that how we met? Yeah. Internet phone stuff. Yeah. For a while before we both got our little PC boxes. Like that was cool. Hey, let's see. I'll always excuse your misspellings there, Juju. You know why? Because I'm the worst. I'm like the typo queen. I'm telling you. I just did. I went to type bingo and it came out bimgo to Mark, like just at the beginning of the stream. And by the way, the bingo card is up there. Or true crime legal episodes absolutely have their own bingo card, because why not? Because why not? Mm. Oh, damn. Juju says she's going in it like a juror. I am mildly hooked by that case. Opening statements got me. Yeah, because like I it's theater, Juju. That's all that keeps coming into my head. And Yannetti, he's got like a degree in Shakespeare or something because like it's like he had the skull in his head and he was like, Karen Reed was set up. It was a Shakespearean moment. And I understand like where you're coming from, that it made you interested in the evidence. Like, but already there are reports that the jury is after day one already side eye, like rolling their eyes at the defense. Like, really? Like, so we'll see. You see, I just don't have tolerance for lawyer shenanigans. Like I take lawsuit, like I take that whole process serious. I have great respect for the justice system inside that courtroom. Okay. And I don't know. It is a technique. It makes them a good lawyer, I guess, if they can convince people of stuff. What? I really would like to see a motion or a legal foundation for the crap that comes out of your mouth, like, because that's the process. Okay. And now we're in the real process here. It's not going to be about what mainstream media says or about what you want to put out there as propaganda or the narrative story you want to tell, like an opening and closing statements. That's story time, people. That's what that is. And the jury isn't even allowed to consider anything of that in deliberations. It can make them look at certain evidence. It can highlight things, but there's no real evidence in there. It's the testimony that's going to matter. And actually, well, we should get started because I didn't really want to start with Karen Reed, but I've kind of been in Karen Reed mode like most of the day. Yeah. Um, well, she is one of the topics for today. Juju agrees. Your bias would ooze out of you at every turn. It is. That's one case. It's kind of like the Montgomery case, which was really difficult. My bias was very strong in the Montgomery case. Yeah, very. That courtroom is crazy too. I can't quite figure out the layout. I need to look it up and ascertain what is happening there. Yeah, and they just went to a smaller courtroom because the original courtroom. Well, you know what? Let's do Karen Reed first, since we're in Karen Reed mode. Like Juju and I just cannot help you. Sorry, everybody, but like it's like Juju. I should throw you a link. Actually, but I know you don't want to speak on it yet because you really want to be unbiased. So I'm not going to drag you into it up here. But I think we should just go right. Let's just go right to it. We've got a lot to cover today anyway. Okay, so all right, so we're going to these are the four. Let me just go through the brief spiel in the beginning. This is the four cases we're going to cover today. Buckle up. I do expect us to be here almost the full 2 hours, if not 2+, because there's been so much. And even though I am doing the live trial, which many of you are there joining me and keeping me company during the day, and I really appreciate that. It goes a long way to motivate me and keep me energized during the day. Trial days are long and they can be boring and tedious. And you guys help lighten the load for me. And I really, really, really appreciate it. And it does mean a lot to me. I mean, some of you have been there from the very first trial that I covered, and it's different. Like, people that like to watch live trials, they're a special lot, and I'm glad you keep your humor. I'm glad you calm, fully caffeinated, and help keep me boisterous. And you're there in the morning. And especially a big shout out for your tolerance of my imperfections. I'm human. And you guys helped me get through. I could have died of embarrassment over the last 2 weeks with the stupid stuff that I ended up doing because I'm overtired or rushing or just trying to do too much at the same time. All human, all my own fault. And I take accountability for it, but I'm human. But you guys making light of the moment and bolstering me up and, giving me the old, it is what it is. And, especially the old, my favorite, shit happens. you know, I I appreciate it, and I just wanted to tell you because that could have been really, really rough. Nobody wants to be in those embarrassing situations, but you guys were troopers, and you're just the best. I see you have a really good thesaurus. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Uh, a really, really, really good one. Okay, that would count if you guys are doing bingo. Mark Caesar, just look to him for the stroking the bear comments. Like, you'll get it on your card. If you get that on your card and you watch what Mark says in the chat, you'll get it every time. Thank you, Mark. The bear does really appreciate a good stroke, and it goes a long way to help making my mood light. Although it's Tuesday night, and that's not like Mondays, and Mondays are rough. Mondays are very, very rough, and they probably always will be, because I have a chip on my shoulder about Monday, which really makes it worse. you know You just had to put your phone in timeout? I'm sorry there, Mousy. What did your phone do? Like, what did your phone do to go in timeout? Okay. Anyway. Oh, otter pun. You're welcome. It's something I oughter know. Anybody who knows me, right? You oughter know what makes me smile. Oh, Couch. If Couch was here, I would tell him that might be a good square, you know? Otter references for sure. Otterings, just some type of ottering, you know? Anyway, these are the four we're going to talk about. Courtney Clenney and on the one side, and Keffe D, Duane Davis on the other side, both had hearings last Tuesday while we were in court. Okay, Karen Reed's trial started Monday, and big news about Andrew Tate. Some of you may have seen my community post, so you're going to know what it's about, but I have a little more information. We're going to go for that. I figured I'd put it out there for YouTube because, I'm a little tiny bear, and I realize that all of YouTube doesn't read my community posts, and probably best if they didn't. I've been known to be a bit snarky back there, so it's probably best they don't hang out there too much, Yes. Hey, Couch, how are you? Otter pun is exactly what I said. I did. Hey, Jen, get to groping, dude. Seems like everybody's in a good mood, and a good grope is absolutely needed. I'm sure I'll get called to task on that by somebody on YouTube, but ask me if I actually GAF. Like, ask me. I could tell you no, I don't. But anyway. And for those of you wondering, nope, I have not abided. This is just me in a good mood. Buckle up. This is what it sounds like when I'm actually not tired, because I actually got good sleep. I had a decent evening, and I'm not tired. And looking on the bright side of things today. This is what it sounds like. All right. Drive-by gropings going on in the chat. Okay. So I said we were going to start with Karen Reed, so let me get to it. Let me get the Karen Reed pictures up. Also, there's no typing in the slides today, so I'll just be bringing them down as we go and trying to actually do a presentation like it's supposed to be done. Okay. For those of you unfamiliar with the name Karen Reed, I'm sure there's a few people left on the planet that have not heard about this case out of Massachusetts. That happened on a blustery, snowstormy, middle of the wee hours of the morning day. John O'Keefe lost his life. Prosecution says that his girlfriend, in a relationship for quite some time, did a hit and run on him, basically. They're saying that she backed into him and he died. She left the scene of an accident. Those are her charges. Okay. Those are her charges. Karen Reed says, nope, she didn't. Okay. A whole bunch of YouTubers in a whole big organization for Karen Reed says that she's in a cover-up, including her attorneys. Which to me, like, it's like a double-edged sword here. Because when it comes to the Karen Reed case, it's not like the defense doesn't have anything to complain about, because it does involve law enforcement. It actually involves law enforcement in an area that has a lot of problems and a lot of prejudice against them right now for a lot of misdeeds and a lot of sloppiness. And let's just say there's a lot of failures of dotting I's and crossing the T's. But when it boils down to it, a fact doesn't get changed because somebody's 3 seconds off in how they documented it. Can you guys go with me like that? I mean, I do agree. You expect precision and accuracy when somebody's life, Karen Reed's freedom, is at stake here. She has every right to expect those I's and those T's to be done. Okay, cross those T's, dot those I's. Okay, it should be that way. Well, here's the real world. It hardly ever is. Okay, it's a defense tactic all the time to go after law enforcement's investigation because of the amount that they do and what they deal with every day, how long it is, how involved it is, how many people are involved in it. You are always And I say that always with a capital A and a Lways, always going to find something to pick apart. Look at any trial, covered here, covered anywhere that you've ever heard of, ever. And there's stuff that you can look at in that investigation and point to and go, well, if you got that wrong, how do I go to this other 1,784 pages of documentation? Am I supposed to believe you? And I say, yes, you should. Because number one, it's very rare, although it does exist, for officers to just want to do a really bad job. Number two, they'd have to be stupid to think that they could organize a cover up and get away with it. The one thing that law enforcement knows that no one is that smart. Not a criminal, not law enforcement, not an attorney, not a judge, not anybody. But I digress. Okay. You may have noticed in my thumbnail, not my thumbnail, but actually the title of this stream is there's a little bit of a theme going on here because there is some crap going on. There's a lot of crap going on. The first district attorney in the Karen Reed case is under investigation for being foul and doing some stupid shit. It's the same thing that happened in the Morphew case. It didn't matter whether Barry Morphew charged with the murder of his wife and didn't have the body, although now we do and we have an autopsy, and I'll address that at a later date. But that Attorney General, Linda Stanley, did so much in other cases and everywhere else and just so bad, lost her job, went under prosecution, like actually getting prosecuted, tainted the whole damn case because of her way of doing things. Okay. Does it mean the officers under her were all dirty? No. Does it mean that there was not an actual case with evidence against Barry Morphew? No. But hey, case gone. All right. So I'm not saying the defense here in Karen Reed doesn't have some stuff to look at. First of all, you have law enforcement officers investigating the death of one of their own in suspicious circumstances. All of his friends are in service here as officers. They're all very connected. They're connected to lawyers. They're connected to judges. They're connected to other officers. Everything. Okay. People are going to human. Humans are going to human. That situation alone is ripe for error. I would expect to see a lack of I's dotted and T's crossed. Who wants to pull up and find one of their coworkers halfway frozen to death? How calm would you? How reasonable and expert would you be at your job? Honestly. Now, a lot of the law enforcement that investigated here did not know him, did not know any of the people involved. And that's going to come out in the trial. Okay, guaranteed. That's going to come out in the trial. Well, first 2 days of testimony, they brought the family, John O'Keefe's brother and his brother's wife, took the stand, first two witnesses. Very, very moving testimony. Talked about John, as you should, the victim. Okay, let me go back to John for a second here. Okay, John O'Keefe, a dedicated police officer, raising his sister's children, by the way. Teenagers now. A lot of people aren't blurring the faces, but those are still minors. You guys know how I roll. Those are minors. They didn't ask to be out there, so they're not going to be out there as far as I'm concerned. However, we can speak about the fact that John O'Keefe was raising them. His sister died of glioblastoma, a brain tumor, a very awful one. And that's not what the case is about. But this is who the victim is. This is who they're dealing with. This person is dead, and it's suspicious, and they have to deal with that. Everybody who knew him. Okay. All right. So John and Aaron, Paul and Aaron, John's brother and his wife, testified first, Absolutely not. Hi. Wait a minute. Okay, I have to address that. If you're late, I'm not starting over again. First of all, I was talking at like 187 miles an hour. That's an exaggeration. I could not could just go back to the beginning and put it on double speed if you dare. Wise guy. And welcome to membership. Hi, it's nice to have you. It's nice to have you here. I agree, Mark. We hear about bad cops all the time, and he looks like a good cop. Not like you could tell a bad cop or a good cop by looking at them. But let's just talk about the person, which is who testified, the family testifying for him. That's what they were talking about. Let's look at the person that he was. And then they talked about the relationship of Karen and John. Okay. And it was very moving. And I made note that the defense would not even cross. There's nothing to cross when you're talking. That was smart. Now, when I say things about this particular defense team, and I'm talking about Jackson and Yannetti, and you will hear me refer to them as theater players or, actors, because they really do get into the whole defense theatrics of the whole thing, painting the picture, making you think past the little digs and all that they make. And make no bones about it. I know they're really, really good at it. Yannetti's a Hollywood lawyer. The big people get him. The fact that Karen Reed, people are missing the fact that Karen Reed herself is so connected. They're all playing up on how connected everybody in the O'Keefe family was, and the law enforcement that investigated, all forgetting the fact that Karen Reed was able to walk into the state district attorney's office and speak with people from the lead FBI investigator just to say that they were suspicious about stuff. They made a big deal about that for a very long time out on the socials. But I'd like to remind everybody that no charges were ever pressed. The investigation didn't go anywhere. They have every right, if they're suspicious, because of the amount of law enforcement involved here and all the interconnections. And yes, the first district attorney, Morrissey, had issues. Okay, but we're dealing with DA Lally here. Okay, that's who's prosecuting now. And he has a case that he is trying to keep from being tainted from all of this propaganda. And it was almost impossible for 2 years. Because if you notice, the prosecution wasn't allowed to go out there and spin these yarns. They're not out there telling these stories. They're not out there giving the interviews and, telling tales and spinning things. Okay. They're dealing with facts and evidence in the judicial system the way they should. So, that needs to be said too. Now, D.A. Lally, granted, is not okay. I'm going to throw out one of my favorite names here. First of all, can we just talk about Karen Reed's face? Very unfortunate. She's a beautiful woman. She is, but she has a way of looking at the camera that makes her so completely unlikable. I want to actually be fair. I do, but she makes these. She just presents herself in a way to where you automatically think, at least I did, entitled. That she really, not too many people, in her opinion, would be her equal. That's all I'm going to say. Now, is that wrong? Yeah, it's absolutely wrong. I'm a failed human being. That's not a nice thing to do. I really wish I was better, but I can't help but look at Karen Reed and think that, because with the actions and the things that I've been reading, that's what I think, and I'm going to be honest about it. Beautiful, beautiful woman. I don't know if she's done beautiful things for the world. She may have. For all I know, she adopts orphans. Like, I have no idea. I don't have a backstory on her. I have a backstory on John O'Keefe. And I have a backstory on the 2 years of all the propaganda that's been put out from her team, by the way, organized between her, several YouTubers that should not have got personally involved. You know how I feel about that, but they do. They do, and they're famous, and they make all the money. And, let's just say some of them are actually have charges on them right now, have to go to court for intimidation and other things. Let's just say messy. Yeah. If you're looking for a case to actually have all of the components, this one does. Well, unfortunately, when it comes to in the courtroom, you're not going to see the circus. The circus has been going on for 2 years, okay? It's gonna be the judge's job to keep the circus outside the tent, okay, and just let the main players do what they gotta do inside. It's not gonna be easy, because there's a lot with this. There's a lot. YouTubers coming under trial, PR relations going on. 2 years of being told that this is set up to cover up because they know who killed John O'Keefe and it wasn't Karen Reed, and they can prove that it was the people in the house, all of the family. But what they never did in that 2 years was file a single motion with that scenario to the court. What they didn't do was provide to the prosecution in the court, as they should, discovery, countering any of the evidence in regards to that scenario. So what the defense is going to do is say, well, there was a third party who did it. But that's what you got to think. That's reasonable doubt. And in their defense, that's all the defense needs to do. Seriously. That's all they need to do. They don't need to file motions. They don't need to cross-examine witnesses. They don't have to present witnesses and or evidence because all of the burden is on the prosecution. If you're going to charge somebody with murder, it's up to you to prove it. The defense, Karen Reed and her team, just need to show up as ordered by the court, period. As frustrating as that is. Okay, that's what frustrates me, is because for 2 years they're out there tainting the jury pool with all of this stuff and doing all these shenanigans, and now they get to do nothing. They don't have to answer for any of that at all. Some of it came very close to misconduct. Some of it did, and I'm waiting to see what happens. I could tell you the Yanetti's been sanctioned before. I'm not forming my opinion on him just on this trial. You look into the Yanetti and you can see a whole bunch of reasons why people are just looking side-eyed and going, "There's a bit slimy." Jackson too. Okay, but are they the best team for spinning the yarn and getting reasonable doubt? She's getting every dollar's worth. Every dollar's worth. And if I was in her shoes, that's what I'd be doing too. That's what I would be doing too. Of course, some of the statements that are coming out that she said, it's only the second day of trial, and I've already heard in her own words on tapes of the arriving at the scene from law enforcement, I hit him. I heard testimony. Is he dead? I heard the testimony of the sister-in-law of John O'Keefe, who was very friendly with Karen Reed. They were friends. They talked all the time. Who said, "I'll never see them again," meaning the O'Keefe family. No one even knew what happened yet. It's that day. And she's saying she'll never see anybody again, as if she needs to cut all ties. Something's wrong here. And I realize that hindsight is perfect vision, right? We're looking at what she said then, and it's an excitable moment. Granted, according to the prosecution, she was intoxicated. She was drunk. They were all out drinking. She shouldn't have been driving. Her memory of things that happened. I mean, to me, this is another case where possibly if what the prosecution said that she hit him, I don't think that's murder. In her intoxicated state, and per prosecution during an argument, per her own testimony during an argument, and not her testimony in court yet, but her interviews, etc., her own words, things were contentious. Things were riled up. I mean, maybe she didn't realize she hit him. Maybe some fluke, she hit him just right and knocked him out. And then the combination of drinking and something else and the weather. I mean, it was freezing out there. He died. She went back home. She says she went to look for him because he never showed up. All of this is believable. I don't doubt her version of that. The only thing I doubt is that she adamantly says she didn't hit him with a broken taillight and all this other evidence that indicates she was there. She she was there at that moment. Okay. And also, like, they're talking now about footprints around the body and all. And if the defense's scenario they put out for 2 years in social media, they have not said it in court. I can't emphasize that enough yet. They have not said this in court because they know they can't. All of those scenarios in regards to people coming and going, they took the body out of the house and just dumped it there. Where are the footprints from the back of the house or the front of the house in the snow to drag a body? Even with the snow falling, the previous depressions would still all be there. They'd just be filled in somewhat. Yeah. Yeah. I made note of that. The only comings and goings of the house were directly up the walk in and out. They weren't across the yard. The body was found on the other corner of the property near the fire hydrant near the street, like close to the curb, where you would be standing if you were arguing with your girlfriend, perhaps. Okay. I don't know. It's all just, it's a bit convoluted to me. It is. Let me introduce you. By the way, these are the gentlemen I'm speaking about. I guess I should show you who they are. This is another picture, unfortunate about Karen's face. I mean, she's paying attention. She's listening, okay? But the way she does that duck lip thing, I don't know. I really shouldn't pay so much attention to it. But anyway, meet Alan Jackson and David Unnetti, okay? Worth every penny if you're on trial for murder. I'll tell you that. As long as you don't want them to file official legal paperwork or no precedent or actually cite law or case law. But if you're on trial for murder, get these two. Definitely get these two for sure. Here's Assistant DA Adam Lally. Now, he is no Crichton Waters. He's not. He dull. He's kind of soft-spoken and puts out the questions, kind of direct. He is rather clever, though, in reformulating his questions to get his point across, but he's subtle. He's deadly subtle. That's a thought I came up with on the first day of trial. I'm listening to him with the witnesses, and he is deadly precise in his subtlety. He is. So he's like the quiet one you're going to have to watch out for, because his zingers will be soft and they'll come in slow. And then you're going to realize it 2 hours later that he said it, what he just proved, what he got out of that witness, how he actually handles the objections. He kind of like knows ahead of time, you know. This is a DA who's dealing with a case that is very muddied up. Already in testimony, the first law enforcement officer, Officer Saraf, I believe it was, got his report tore apart by Alan Jackson because he didn't mark the right time. It was off by seconds or minutes. Location addresses. The address is 34. He wrote 32, or he wrote this. There was like the transcript of, as they're going, what was going on between command center, where they're documenting everything for the call outs to the officers communicating with each other. There are errors left and right everywhere. And like I said, no dotting of the I's, no crossing of the T. But I would say that Jackson did a good job of making Saraf actually deal with the fact that it was not perfect what they did. And it's never going to be. I'm not expecting it to be, but maybe the jury is. Okay. But there were some things the jury was actually already rolling their eyes at. Okay. Like, indeed. And it is their job to focus on these details, because what they're trying to do is take the credibility of the witness away. If they can show that he's a sloppy officer, then anything he said can be discounted, or they hope. Okay. But like I said before, it doesn't change the facts of the case. It doesn't change the testimony or the words that came out of Karen's mouth, unfortunately. So one of the points of contention was that this officer that was testifying yesterday for the prosecution and was on cross with defense today, the first witness that they crossed, because they did not cross the family, that would have looked bad. And that was a good decision on their part. They probably would have got judged harshly for that one. So sticking with law enforcement was a good idea. Heading in there and just pulling apart the report. He had said about her saying that he was dead. Okay. And they played the tape where she said a whole bunch more stuff. But he didn't write all of the things that she said in his report. So he made a big deal about, you had all the time in the world. You could have remembered. You had all this space. You weren't under time concerns. You could have wrote everything that she said, but you didn't. Like, you only wrote this. And I think he was trying to refer to the fact that perhaps as a police officer, he was being biased. That, if they're going to say there's a cover up involved here, they're going to try to involve everybody in the case into it to say that they were all involved in just making Karen look bad. And I'm hoping that the jury gets the idea that the first officer on the scene could not have coordinated with everybody to write their reports that were done that morning, right then, to actually go against Karen Reed as the suspect immediately and just automatically build a case against her from day one. Because what they're doing from the moment they get there is documenting the scene as they see it and figuring it out. They don't have a preconceived notion in their head who did what. They made a big point about the fact that they were letting people go in and out of the house. At that time, they didn't suspect that it was a homicide and that these people would be witnesses. He made a big deal because Jen McCabe went into the house and she was a witness on the scene because her and Karen and the other person, Robertson, were there immediately when he arrived with the body. Karen giving CPR, Jen McCabe talking to him, they had just arrived and found him and called it in. Okay. So, they acted like this preconceived notion, like hindsight is perfect vision, by the way, but you don't have it in, right then and there in the moment. So he wrote from his recollection. And you could tell that this officer was very uncomfortable on the stand, because he knew he was going to get picked apart. I can imagine this a very, very hard thing to do. Oh, anyway. So basically, this is a very interesting trial, and I hope that you're all watching it elsewhere. I did not need to be reminded about the banner today. You're right. I must be slipping. Either that, like I said, I slept. So I might be a little bit more on the ball today. I don't know. I sure am in a better mood. All right. So let me just go through for comments on Karen Reed, which silent but deadly. How does that look to a defendant cuts off ties like that? How does it look to the jury, Mark? I don't know, but to me, and it's hard for me to put myself in the jury's position. I think I would like to know what Juju says about that, because I would like to know what she thought about that. That statement that Karen Reed made about she cut off immediately all ties with the victim's family. Some people that she was going to family functions with for years. I mean, she knew John since college. They dated back then. She's been part of the same circle on and off. She knows them all well. And she cut off ties with everyone immediately. To me, that sends a red flag. That to me, that screams in my head loudly. But I'd like to know. That's a very good question. How does everybody else? How does everybody else? Juju, yes, the judge was spot on. I did like it. I do like Judge Canon. And also, just like on another reference, let me just bring up accents. If you guys like an accent and you want to know about how American accents change from state and area to area, watch this trial. So Boston accents, Massachusetts accents vary. You're going to get a whole cornucopia of dialect in pronunciations that are going to be like, huh? Because it's enjoyable for me, for those of you that are language folks. You can find some amusing moments. But yeah. And I do love Judge Canon. She's taken a lot of heat, for what she's allowing, but she's trying to present the fairest possible trial, in a very high profile case with a lot of people against law enforcement in the area as it is already. Um, in some problems with the case, in high profile lawyers, in all of that, as far as having to put up a a, a limit on how close they can get to the court just so the jury can get in and out without being bombarded with statements and posters and harassed and called out. Like, yeah, it's hard. I give her a lot of credit, and I did enjoy that too, Juju. Yes, Mark, all women are beautiful. I did say she was beautiful, but she also has a way of looking like she's full of attitude. I'm sorry. Karen Reed looks like she's a handful. Hmm. Oh, damn. Mark, they already got the bingo when you stroked the bear the first time. No accent is more sexy than yours. Thank you. I don't have an accent. I'm gonna keep saying that till the day I die. I know. Hi, Liz. How are you? The second witness, if you listen to the second witness, that's Erin, the sister-in-law who was friends with her Juju. She states that Karen said that. She'd never see any of them again. Karen said it. Yeah. Looks terrible if she made the choice to no longer be in contact with them. Did she stop answering them when they texted or called? Apparently, she just like the whole thing. When she said that, it sent flags up to Erin, and I'm sure they all talked. I'm not sure about any conversations before that. But what struck me is that there are teenagers involved here. There are children involved here. That she helped John O'Keefe. She stayed there. She helped him with the children. She stayed there quite a few nights of the week. They had family events together. She was there for those kids, okay? And then all of a sudden, she has nothing to do with anybody. And why do you have to put yourself in such a protective state? I can understand that she thinks that people are going to be looking at her. She was the last one to see him alive. Obviously, it's the person closest to you that everybody's going to start side-eyeing. But why cut off all ties so drastically? Like, why did she feel she needed to protect herself that way? That is what really kind of piqued my interest. Yeah, she does look like a bad Karen, Mousy. I kind of she just looks like she's got some attitude. She, you know, and that's all judging by looks, and we shouldn't really do that. I've also got like all this other stuff that I've read in my head, and I know it's not fair. And I admit it. I'm human. She just like this. I'm trying to be fair to her. It is just something to me that is coming off very unlikable. Juju needs more information. Let's hope more comes out from in the trial. I don't know. You know, but she's very well dressed. She's impeccable. And she's beautiful. She really is. There's just something about that attitude that really gets me. All right, let's move on because we've only got tonight. Okay. You want to talk about the Tate brothers? Well, we're gonna, whether you want to or not. Okay. If you read my community tab, that you know that the Bucharest judicial inquiry in Romania is complete. The process in Romania in the charges after Andrew and Christian and their two co-defendants were charged, the process is all of the investigation from the DIICOT's efforts is all pulled together. The whole case with the prosecution is presented to a tribunal of judges who have to actually just see that there's enough there to actually charge, to make sure that the court expenses and the whole process is intact. Okay. They want to be fair. All right. Several things happened in the past once they received that information. Okay. Number two, there was a lot from Tate's lawyers saying it was unfair prosecution, trying to get them out of jail because they were arrested and held in jail. They were in prison for several months. Okay. Several, there was enough information in the affidavits and provable evidence to keep them under lock that they were a flight risk, that they were damaging to the community under Romanian law, that they had violated enough laws to keep them in there until trial. Through the efforts of their attorneys, the Tates were able to get released to house arrest for a while, and they were under house arrest for quite a while, and that was based on several issues. Basically, that they weren't in contact with any of the victims. Being in house arrest would serve the same thing as being in prison, only allow them more because they weren't actually convicted yet. They're not guilty yet. It would allow them easier access to their attorneys to build their defense, to get evidence that they need to handle their daily business, and they could do that under house arrest. Okay, they did that. Okay, and then they negotiated every 30 days or 60 days that would get reviewed by the judicial tribunal in the court system, and they were going back to court all the time in regards to all of this. Are they going to be in jail? Are they going to be under house arrest? Are they going to be under supervised control of the judicial system? Okay, and they still are. They're not allowed to leave the country, and they have to report to their local police office, police station every 48 hours to submit to whatever question, whatever it is, and about their whereabouts, whatever. They are being watched closely, and monitored. It's monitored supervision. The DIICOT admits to still having another offshoot investigation into some additional charges about minors in trafficking, etc. But this particular charges that they originally were put under with the affidavit is going forward. They have finally completed their review, and we're going to trial. They're not getting released under supervised. That was hands down denied again. Okay. But the big notes here are that there's almost complete silence from Tate's camp now that the judicial review is done. A week ago, they were posting witnesses are being removed, evidence that's unlawful is being removed, everything's being removed. Our lawyers are fantastic. We're going to get this whole thing overturned. But the fact of the matter is, it's going forward with not a single victim being dropped from the case, contrary to postings from multiple Tate sources that says 2, 3, or 4 of them were out. Nope. None of that's been removed. No evidence has been dropped or removed from the case at all. None. It goes, I think that's fantastic. Like, I've never heard of such a thing. The whole case is going to trial intact from the prosecutor. And he's paid a lot of money for his lawyers. But besides being a really great PR campaign, I don't see that they did much. They did grant him some freedom. They did get him some liquid assets returned that were because of procedure, some of them. He has not received all his assets back because what they touted as a complete reversal of the process, because everybody was wrong, actually was you found a procedural issue, and now you can go back to the lower court and have that process done again. But we're holding your assets until you do. What he really just appealed was the right to appeal the judge based on a procedural issue. And it was based on the timing of certain things, not the facts that they did anything wrong and needed to have their assets taken. Okay. That always gets me when the little procedural things actually turn the whole case on its ear. Is it like, what about all this evidence over here that shows that they're guilty? Oh, well, we can't use any of it because blah, blah, blah. We've got a few cases like that coming up to where the whole body's been eliminated from a murder case because of the procedural tactics that were taken by law enforcement at the time. And part of what we're talking about tonight is the fact that when things get done wrong, it has a big effect long term on cases all the way through. All the way through. We're going to see that in Karen Reed. We saw a little bit of it here in Tate. And I don't know much about how things happen in Romania. I am actually counting a lot on people that have ties to Romanian journalists and any kind of process. Everything has to be translated. Every document that comes out of Romania is in Romanian. Like, has to be translated. I even have my doubts that it's translated accurately. I'm trying to get a second and a third source for everything. You guys know I use Crayons, Murdered by Crayons, the YouTube channel in Crayons, because of their connections with people in Romania and them getting the information. And I do believe that they, even though they have what I would call some bias against Tate, because they post constantly in regards to Tate misinformation. You can't like do that for all this time and not build up a bias. I get it, but they are actually attacking the misinformation, and they're actually coming up with the facts that go against a lot of what people are putting out in the media in regards to Tate. But the astronomical silence right now. I mean, you could hear a pin drop from the Tate camp right now. Candace Owen isn't talking about it. Nobody. All these Tate supporters, where are they? The judicial branch is pushing it forward. Why aren't you talking? What happened? Dead silence. And to me, that means organized propaganda. That shows you it's an organized event. There was one YouTuber, there was one video that came out that had the whole process in it. And then the very next day, the thumbnail was the same, but the title of it was all changed. And every reference to Andrew Tate was like stripped out of it. And I'm like, what? What? I'm not doing that. I don't care who contacts me. I'm not taking Andrew Tate name off of anything. But they don't care. I'm a little bear. This was a much larger news organization that it happened with. Yeah, I'm trying to get the bare facts. The bare facts, exactly. There, Mark, you're adorable. You're really cracking me up today. All right. What else do I got on Tate? He doesn't look happy. I wouldn't be either. Oh, and here's all the evidence that doesn't exist. Because, Tate has absolutely both Christian and Andrew and the co-defendants and everybody from their camp, all their supporters, have posted repeatedly that there actually is no evidence. Why did it take so long for them to review it all? Look at it. That's a lot. Tate's evidence, he says they have no evidence. His own videos of him admitting to the crimes that he's actually charged with is actually in the evidence. Seriously. But there's no evidence. And I've just found that amusing. Yeah, I did. All right. Do you guys want to pick the next one? I'm going to look and see if you have questions. Looks like those two are in big trouble. Yes, it does. I have one more thing on him, though, that I want to talk about. It is a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. The Tates are accused of actually having relations with minors. I have heard with my own ears from both Christian Tate and Andrew Tate, them admitting to being involved with 16-year-olds and younger, and that it's a great thing and whatever. Them saying they didn't break the law because in certain countries it's allowed. Okay. And that's true. Okay. And there are some facts to be substantiated here. The age of consent varies from state to state here in the United States and in countries all over. It varies. It's 18, it's 16, it's 17, it's 14. You could marry your cousin at 13 in some states. And that's a fact. It's not a lie, and I'm not exaggerating. It's true. It's true. It varies, is my point. Okay. The fact that the Tate community, the Tate support community, is out there saying that they cannot be convicted of trafficking minors because the age of consent in their dual citizenship for the UK is 16. Bullshit. If it's higher in Romania and that's where it happened, you're going down for it. Okay. And now they're saying that in the United States, there's no way we're ever going to be able to bring charges to them because in the other areas, it's lower. Well, here's a fact. Tate has dual citizenship, United States and UK, which means he is absolutely responsible for following the laws of that country when he travels abroad. If they choose to charge him in the United States for the stuff that he's doing in other areas, yes, they can. I checked it out legally. We have laws to protect minors in we expect our citizens to protect to actually be law abiding and understand that certain things aren't wrong. And as a nation, we have decided that we made a end of exploitation act called Protect Act back in 2003, and it now allows us to charge cases like the one against Andrew Tate here in the United States for things that he's doing based on our laws. If they prove it in Romania, he could face charges here if any of those people are American citizens. And there is evidence that people traveled from the UK to Romania to be with him, from the United States to Romania to be with him. His victim base is multi countries, multicultural, cultural, multi countries, international. There you go. Sorry, got a little tongue tied there. Anyway, whether or not the US citizen or lawful permanent resident intended to engage in such illicit sexual conduct prior to going abroad. Listen, so there are people saying that because the age of consent is actually 16 in the UK and over here it might be 18. Hey, dual citizenship does not protect him because he's still a citizen. He has citizenship of the United States. They don't care. They will still prosecute him under this, just like the UK can still prosecute them under their guidelines any way they want. He's responsible to obey the laws of his citizenship. Period. Dual citizenship does not protect him. Now, if he was only a UK citizen and did stuff over here, he'd have more protection. If he did not have citizenship in the United States, damn, the embassy would protect him like, yeah. But that's not the case. Dual citizenship just means you got more laws to worry about, dude. And they can apply whichever ones they want. All right, that's all I have to say about that one. Isn't that interesting? It's also very interesting how these people coming out in support of certain issues, trying to pick apart the evidence or saying people don't know what they're talking about in the Tate case, can't even Google. I mean, that came up in 3 seconds. Like, I don't know. And maybe I'm weird, but do not people Google before they post? I mean, gee. Oh, maybe people don't care if they want to be taken seriously or not. I don't know. But hey, Google's a thing, and it's not always right, but it can lead you to the information. I mean, make an attempt to know what you're talking about before you post out there, because your support, when you're not backing it up with real information, isn't really helping. Just advice to all you Tate supporters out there. You really want to support him? Know what the hell you're talking about. That would help. Instead of just attacking people and putting out these blind stuff, get some information and document it. Put it out there. I, for one, I'm not a Tate supporter. Everybody knows that. But I would read it, I would look at it, and I would check it out. You'll do better in your support that way. Okay. You really would. Just a thing. Okay. Hello, Mippy. You have to abide by the laws of the country. Yeah, you do. Unfortunately, right, Sean? All right. Mm. Marcus, it's not so true anymore, but I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. At least don't break any laws to do it. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Liz, in answer to this question, are the Tate brothers American or British? They have dual citizenship. They are citizens of both countries. All right. So we still have Courtney Clenney or Keffe D. What do you guys want? Courtney Clenney or Keffe D? I mean, unless you have more questions about the Tate brothers, but I think I'm done, soapboxing about Tate like I normally do. Like, I do admit I soapbox a lot about Tate. Yes, Liz, I agree with you. And actually, in this week's reporting, now that the Bucharest is, the Romanian courts are going forward with trial. And oh, by the way, the judge ordered that a trial date needs to be set, but it hasn't been set yet. And as soon as I get that, I'll let you guys know. I'll let you know what time frame we're looking at. And by the way, in all fairness, the Tate camp has said they are appealing. They actually use terms like unlawful and all of this stuff about the judge's review that took months and months and months was unlawful, and that there are issues there that they refuse to address. Now, they had all the motions that the attorneys filed. It's not like it wasn't all available, but they didn't agree with any of them. They went forward and said this case is valid, and they're letting the DICCOT prosecute it. It's gonna. And oh, by the way, DICCOT has a 98% conviction rate. It might have something to do with the silence from the Tate camp. I mean, I'd be stunned if I had heard that right after I found out that I was going to have to face trial. Yeah. Yeah, right. Couch. Nobody Googles before posting anymore. Like fact check, I did. You want to hear something fun? Something really cracked me up. Like I saw a tweet the other day from Elon Musk, and he was trying to say something about say something. And Twitter, his own company, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, fact checked his butt and put up a. Oh, by the way, that's not so. I just, I loved it. I loved it. I don't know if it was faked, but it did make me laugh. Like I had to go grab it and put it on my tab for you guys. Like it was hysterical. Yeah. Truer words have never been spoken, Mark. The whole family is tainted. Yeah. Well, several of my friends, that's what they call taint. Several of you. Okay. So let me see. All right. Keffe D or Courtney Clenney. Keffe D is Duane Davis. That's the Tupac Shakur case. Courtney Clenney, it is the OnlyFans model out of Florida for the death of her boyfriend, Christian Olbensali. Come on, Mark. I can't do it for everybody. And I only do it for the stuff I'm interested in and the cases I'm interested in. I understand that a lot of you are interested in a lot more cases than what I follow. Which brings me to an announcement. Before we decide which case, and come on, people, like I'm talking to you in the chat. You get your fingers on that keyboard and tell me, Courtney Clenney or Keffe D. Like, don't make me choose. I already chose the other two. Like, help me out here. Cut a bear a break. Cooperate. Weigh in, please. Which one do you want to hear first? Well, my kind of a channel announcement is in regards to Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, Puffy, pants guy, whatever you want to call him. I did start to cover it, and we were talking about it, and he will be part of things. But as far as the in-depth deep dive and analyzing all the different cases, which are mostly civil at this point, there is no criminal case. And so I've made a decision for myself as far as workload in the channel and how I want to do things. And I put it in a pro and con list and used some factors that I have determined are important to me. Okay. And it came up that I'm not covering these civil cases anymore. Number one, there's an account out there who's going over all of the affidavits and everything and putting it all out there. And they're a friend of mine in true crime way back when I was first looking into Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell and Suzanne Morphew. They were very instrumental in helping me learn about getting the documentation and where to go and what to do it. And I'm fucking raking. And so she's covering P. Diddy, and she's doing a damn good job. And her videos are out there on it. And if you want the deets on that, I suggest going over there. There's a lot of people covering it in a lot of different communities, not just true crime. Hip hop is all over it. Okay. And I've also noticed lately for me, there's a crossover in hip hop rap community in true crime, and it's smashing together. Like for me lately, like all over the place. I've been watching documentaries on, drill rap and, the old gangsters in Chicago and UK problem and even Sweden. Okay. gangs and murder cases and rap and hip hop, and it was all like smushing together. So it's not just the Tupac case. I am still going to cover Tupac, and when we get to that, you're going to see that P Diddy may or may not end up to be a part of it. But I'm not going to weigh in on P Diddy until there's a criminal case. And if it does go criminal, because it's East Coast and because I got a lot of history on it, damn well I will then put my feet in the water. But right now I'm just wiggling toes, okay? And I'm going to let others that are doing a great job do it. I mean, why redo it if it's being done great? I mean, that's where I'm coming at it from, okay? So I hope you understand on that. There's not going to be anything in regards to the salacious and dripping with all kinds of intrigue civil cases that are going on in the P Diddy. I get the fascination. I really do. But there's a lot there. And he doesn't have such a great reputation. It's been going on for years. Mhm. Is he single? Does he go both? I don't know. Oh, all right. I have a question for you, High Inquisitor, and I'm going to show my naivety here, I guess, a little bit. Who the hell's Tom Holland, and why the hell should I care? Why do I care? I don't know. What did he do? I guess you got to lead with what did he do on whether I'm interested or not, right? Did you short out your keyboard? I don't know. I don't know. All right, the only one who said anything, okay, Mark said number one, and Jin said Courtney. And I'm going to think that Mark, your number, oh, and Mippet said number one too. And, Courtney Clenney was number one on the thumbnail. So let's go back to that. Yeah, I just said, who is Tom Holland? Seriously. Cue the massive amount of DMs I'm going to get with pictures and articles. Okay, here we go. Tom Holland, is he the one who played Spider-Man in his little Spidey suit? Is he? Oh yeah, Rocket just said Tom Holland is Spider. He's one of the Spider-Men. There were others. Come on, there were others. I know. Listen, if he's not wearing his Spidey suit, I don't care. The Spidey suit was really hot and he flew around great. But hey, Tom Holland, nope. Uncharted. Spider-Man Uncharted. Okay, I get it. Okay, but what did he do? And I have no idea if he's single. I mean, you might as well ask me if spiders are monogamous. How the hell do I know? I do not know. I don't know. But hey, if he hits me up, I'll get his phone number for you and I'll pass it along, quiz, or get you his socials or whatever. But I doubt very much I'm going to have anything to do with Tom Holland. She agrees. You should not wear a Spidey suit. Quiz. let's stay in the true crime lane, please. Like, come on, I'm in a really good mood. Don't derail me. Yeah. No, not Spider and Bear sitting in a tree. Although I will say Spider-Man was the coolest superhero when I was younger. Yes, like comic books were classics. We had people that were collecting them, and I loved Spider-Man comics. Like, I always thought because he was human and something happened to him, he was the coolest superhero. But that was before I met Deadpool. Yeah. Now I'm a big Deadpool fan. And then Daredevil. Like, then I went to the Bad Boys. Yeah. Because Spider-Man, he was just so, he was a teenager in high school. He's just an all-American kid. It was kind of cool. Does that mean that Wrecker will be getting a Spider-Man onesie soon? That's up to Wrecker. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I require no such onesie. I can tell you that. Okay. Can we get off naked superheroes now, please? Okay, I'm gonna go with Courtney Clenney and hope that I don't have to like clip all of that out here. You guys are cracking me up. You're almost in as good a mood as I am. Okay, on to Courtney Clenney. Here we go. Courtney Clenney is facing charges of murder for killing Christian Obumsali, her live-in boyfriend. They had a contentious relationship. We've all seen the interviews and we've all seen the fights and we've all seen the stuff back and forth. This has been going on for quite a while. They don't want to talk about the history of the case. What I want to talk about is some really messed up stuff that's going on in the case that kind of involves the case. And yes, it's going to be very, very important what gets decided by the judge in regards to the motions that just happened in the hearing that happened Tuesday, which was not about the murder case. Well, it was and it wasn't. It was a hearing about the charges for computer communication violations and everything, and absconding with evidence or whatever that they're charging Courtney Clenney and her parents, Deborah and Kim Clenney, for having a laptop of Alboncelli's that was in the apartment that they shared. This is important to understand. Shared apartment and space, in a committed relationship for years. There was a hearing in regards to these charges. The parents have filed a formal motion to dismiss, and I have to say they got a pretty valid case, okay? But the part that was so intriguing to me is that here is the trial, the hearing, not the trial, the hearing. And this was Tuesday in Florida, Miami-Dade, Florida. Okay, Frank Prieto and Sabrina Puglisi, you may remember, are Courtney's attorneys, okay? Lo and behold, I found out in this hearing, they also represent the parents, and they had prior to being charged for having this laptop, okay? A little bit of history. The laptop was discovered after the apartment that Courtney Clenney and Christian Opsami were lived in together. After the investigation was complete of the site where the alleged murder happened, okay, he did die there. Oh, she does admit to throwing a knife at him. He did stab him and kill him, and he died from his injuries. But she says it was self-defense. They were in the middle of an argument. The coroner, she was denied bail because the coroner said that she could not have thrown it from the 10 feet to have the kind of injury that it caused. It could not have penetrated the way that it did. It would be a fluke. It would be the astronomical percentages of it happening that way were really, really small, like almost impossible, but he wouldn't say impossible. He said extremely unlikely. Okay. Mhm. See you later, Mark. Anyway, so she's on the charges. This laptop was discovered after they released the apartment back to Courtney Clenney, and her parents were clearing it out. Okay, they were clearing out the apartment, of all her belongings and everything, and they discovered this laptop. And her father, Kim Clenney, actually took this laptop thinking, well, wait, there might be some, like, looking at it from the father's perspective, his daughter, who he knows, and he has said this, he has given testimony in the bail hearing, and he has given interviews, and he has spoken in articles, okay, that he was fully aware they had a contentious relationship. It was very difficult to him to watch his daughter going through this. They fought all the time. He really did think that Christian was abusive. When he saw that laptop, he was thinking there might be something on this laptop to help defend Courtney and prove that what is going on. He wasn't thinking this belongs to the investigation. He's thinking, hey, they left it here because they don't need it. They're not concerned about it. He couldn't get into it. There's a discussion amongst the lawyers, Frank Prieto, Sabrina, and Courtney. Courtney knew the password for it. Courtney contends, as came out in this hearing, that they shared that laptop, that there was password, but they knew each other's passwords and communications, and they often were on each other's devices. That sounds normal to me. I'm in a relationship, and I could see us using the same laptop for stuff and having to know passwords. I share passwords for certain things, with your significant other. You're in a committed relationship. That doesn't sound that unreasonable to me. Okay. Now, also, the truth of the matter is that when they discovered this and they decided they're going to prosecute, they're ignoring the fact that once they went in there and found that it did belong to Christian, there wasn't anything incriminating on there, they turned the laptop over to the Abansali family, as they should. They did. They did they did it. Okay. They gave the property back to Abansali, but that's what the prosecution is using against them to say they knew it was his. Well, of course she knew it was his. She lived with him. Like, duh. But here's the thing. And here's where we get into like the theme of the night with all of these lawyers and prosecution and judges and like people just doing kind of the wrong thing legally, like kind of like really taking their authority over the edge a little bit. Because the prosecution, in prosecuting them here, they put out a subpoena for all of Courtney Clenney's iCloud communications in regards to that laptop and them discussing that laptop. And what they got was private communications between a lawyer and the client. Private communications between a lawyer and a client. Y'all know what that means, right? That's sacred. You don't get that. Prosecution now has everything that they talked about. The parents and Courtney and the attorneys. They read it. Now, this happens sometimes, okay? And the prosecution is supposed to prepare a safety net. And the way it was explained to me, it's like a clean room and a dirty room. If you have to look at evidence that may have stuff that you're not supposed to know about because of the law of private attorney protected conversations, attorney client privilege, okay, is a sacred protection. It's kind of like the jury process, like don't mess with it, okay? You set up another room so that the people investigating and prosecuting aren't the ones viewing it at first. They can actually say, redact it, eliminate it, kind of go through it, so you don't taint your whole case. But that didn't happen here. And now the Clenneys, Kim and Deborah, are filing a motion to say with all that protected information in there, because they were also under protection because they had attorney-client privilege with Frank Prieto and Sabrina Puglisi, who are in the discussions with them in regards to it. And this is the evidence that they're using against them, and it's all protected. But now the murder case is also tainted because they were looking at Courtney Clenney's conversations with Frank Prieto and Sabrina Puglisi. And now Sabrina has gone out and made a statement that they are actually going to file a motion to remove the prosecution team from this case. Now, it won't get the murder case tossed. I do believe that the information that was presented on Tuesday, Frank Prieto had to actually testify. Yes, he did. Okay. And he testified, about the privileged information. I'm going to put a couple of links in the chat. We've got motions here. We've got the affidavit that they were filed on, that got filed on, okay? And then we also have, the first one is the motion to dismiss from the parents, I believe. This first link I'm posting here. The second one is Frank Prieto talking about his testimony on Court TV. And the last one is the charging complaint on the prosecution, how they got their what they think happened. They're saying that, this was all nefarious. They knew they had evidence. They should have turned it over, blah, 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 blah. End result was there was nothing on that laptop that they felt was necessary, and then they just turned it over to the family because they might find stuff on there that was valuable to them as family members, and they did the right thing. So if they were actually conducting this nefarious, like, we're searching for evidence, we know it belongs to you, and blah blah blah, we're tainting the evidence, we're doing, why would they turn over the laptop? They would destroy it if they were doing anything wrong. Here they are, they did the right thing. Prosecution is trying to make such a big thing about it. They could actually mess up their whole case. And these kind of things happen. Well, to me, I think that Courtney Clenney and her parents have a really good case of prosecutorial misconduct here. They're taking it a little too far here. Okay. Now, Sabrina Puglisi and Frank Prieto has said from the start that prosecution has gone over and aboard and has been very iffy on some things anyway. And it was a pretty tough case. But now they're looking at a case that's going to get delayed for quite some time. If the prosecution team gets tossed off because of this, because they've seen all of these private communications, just for that, they have knowledge of the defense team's strategy, the defense team's conversations, things that Courtney may have admitted to her lawyer that she doesn't have to tell the prosecution. This is like crossing one of those lines that really, like, red flags went up. Like when I started reading and checking out this particular scenario in this case, my mouth was open. I'm just like, wow, like they really stepped in it here. Now, they may have thought that there was something there, but when they found out there really wasn't, unless they found something on there, which they didn't, why are they prosecuting? It to me, it was just, they're going after them for computer crimes. The big issue here is the murder, right? Why are they going after them for computer crimes? Are they thinking that they may be able to force them to take a plea on other things, get them to testify against Courtney to save their skin? Like, I don't understand the reasoning. Even after reading their side of the story, and the reason I'm giving you the complaint is because they do have a scenario there that they're trying to push that I guess in some way is reasonable. But then when more information comes out, and when I got hit with the fact that that laptop was full of the iCloud, that had access to the iCloud, which exposed them to all of Courtney Clenney's communications with her attorney, uh, that just blew my mind. Just blew my mind. And then when I found out that there was a written lawyers agreement between Puglisi's lawyers firm and Prieto's lawyers firm with the Clenney family, then I knew that they were really stepping in it, because now they've got they're using the texts. They're using the text messages between the attorneys and the Clenney parents as evidence as to why they should be charged. And that's private privileged information. It's mind-boggling to see you later, couch. But does any of this show that she isn't a liar who stabbed her boyfriend to death? No. But that's the point. They could be ruining their case. They have evidence that she was in a tumultuously violent relationship. They have evidence of her hitting him. They have the coroner's evidence that her statement of throwing it from 10 feet away couldn't possibly be true. And yet they could just blow this whole case for doing something like this, which is why we're talking about it. Like, I don't understand. Like, wow. I also don't understand why the prosecution has gotten so involved with a sideshow. Exactly. Concentrate on your case. Does that mean your case was starting to weak and this was a desperate attempt to get them to cooperate with you? I'm not sure. All I know, for us, it's going to delay Courtney Clenney's court date. Absolutely. First of all, the hearing, there was so much information, and the judge would not decide on any of the motions then. We're going to hear later. We'll be talking about this again to decide when the judge finally puts out the orders and the decision on whether or not to toss the computer crimes case altogether. And also, from Sabrina Puglisi, she says she's filing motions to have the prosecution tossed off the murder case. It's going to get really messy. It is already really messy. And by the way, they went, even though they know that the Clenneys come back and forth to see their daughter and everything and would have turned themselves in willingly, do you know that the prosecution from Florida sent people to arrest them in their home out of state and bring them in instead of, like, this is white collar crime. This is white collar crime. In very often, I wouldn't say all the time, but very often in white collar crime, You get a phone call that says you're under affidavit, you needed to show, you need to come turn yourself in with so many days, or we're going to issue an arrest warrant and have you brought in. You would think, since it's quite expensive to extradite people that are arrested in other states to bring them to where you are in Florida to get booked and charged and released on bail or whatnot, they did this in a harassing way. And yeah, that's just my personal opinion. That's me. I'm looking at it going, you didn't have to do it like that. And why you're going out of your way to do it like that makes bells go off in my head. And that alone was part of the testimony there as to that process. And I think the judge would be looking at that also. Is there some prosecutorial misconduct here? Is there at least some harassment here? Is there, like, intentional or not, going a little too far? Perhaps, yeah. Yeah, just too much. Just too much. This is Deborah and Kim Clenney. Kim Clenney gave a lot of testimony in the bail hearing, which was denied because of finances and all. Basically, because Courtney it's a serious charge, and she is a flight risk. She's got nothing to lose by leaving the country when you could lose freedom. Murder charge for life. The sentencing is very rigid, and they thought that she would be a huge flight risk based on her ability to make money. Now, her father came forward and said that he handled her finances. He bought a house. She doesn't have a lot of money. She could barely pay for her attorneys. Okay. But the judge was also right when the prosecution say, well, she's an OnlyFans model. And even though that account was shut down, she could start another one anywhere. And she made millions doing it. The case itself would be sensationalism. She could make money from anywhere at any time and would then have the funds to be able to leave. And the risk of her not being there for trial was great. And, so the judge decided to leave her there, okay, in jail until trial. And now she's going to have to sit there even longer because of all of this messiness. Oop. Okay. Let me just I find it difficult to think that actually experienced prosecutors could mess up this bad. I know, right? I'm wondering, what were they thinking, Liam? And was it an assistant prosecutor? Was it a newbie? Did somebody just not dot the I's across the T's? Did it not get double checked? Were they not really looking at it that closely? Do they have current passports? Can they afford to leave the country quickly? Those two questions are what prosecutors ask themselves, especially now with what we've seen other people do. Exactly, High Inquisitor. This is the main reason that the Tates are still under judicial supervision. Okay. And this is why Courtney was denied, because, yeah, she had funds and she had the ability to leave at any time. Okay. This is why also another case we recently followed, Danny Masterson from last year. He wanted to come out and be on bail or house arrest while he appealed his judgment, okay, his sentencing. He's going to appeal it, but the judge denied that he could get out because, he had the funds, he has connections, and he was going through a divorce. He no longer, with this seriousness of what he knows he's facing, the risk of him being just leaving the country was great, that he would not show up for. Yep. I find it difficult to think. Yeah. I already put that one up. Me too. Absolutely. Me too. All right. So I'm going to have to go to the next one, guys, if we're going to finish within the 2 hours, which I would really like to do. And this one's kind of lit. I've got some stuff for you on this one. I really do. All right. Okay. Now we're going to talk about Keffe D, a little bit about P. Diddy. And this is in regards to the murder, years ago, what, 28 years now and more, of Tupac Shakur. Okay. Still unsolved, although there's lots of stories out there about exactly how it happened. No one has been charged except for Keffe D. And Keffe D was charged last September, okay, for the murder of Tupac Shakur, okay. And under the statute in Nevada, Las Vegas, where he is actually being uh in the county where he lives, he's being charged. That's where everything happened. That's kind of where he's from. That's not exactly the city he lives in, but in the area. He can actually get charged for the murder even if he's not the one who pulled the trigger. Okay. This case is really formulated on all of his own words, his own statements. Keffe D has said, I brought the gun. He has said it in a book. He has said it in an interview. He said, I brought the gun. I was in the front seat of that Cadillac. I was one of the 4 people. I passed the gun. I didn't have a shot because I didn't want to shoot the driver. I passed that gun to the back seat. Now it's coming out that he passed that gun in the back seat to his nephew, Orlando, because he passed it to the other gentleman who was sitting there, and he said he didn't want, he just passed. He said, nah. Orlando Anderson took that gun, and it is said to have fired out of the back rear window of that Cadillac into the black car containing Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. Now, Suge Knight has gone out and said only, not formally, will not testify, says he will never testify against anybody. He knows who killed Tupac. He knows who fired that gun. He said he directly saw and he knows who was in that vehicle and who's involved. He says he knows it, right? Okay. Everybody knows who the 4 people were within that car. But the only 2 still alive are Suge Knight and Keffe D. All right. And what I want to talk about today, as far as, with all of this misconduct of lawyers and police officers and prosecutors and everything in the whole system, the more I find out about this case against Keffe D, the more intrigued I get. Because basically they're using his own words. And I'm like, this man thought he was under a proffer. Okay, and the proffer is like you give testimony in an investigation with an officer or whatever, and they kind of say, we're not going to charge you for this stuff because you're going to help us with that. Okay, so you don't get charged with this because we're going to help you with that. Okay, and he was looking at some serious drug charges. Okay, Keffe D has admitted to being very high up in a gang, like the guy. Okay, he was big in it. It was his life. There's plenty that he says about it out there, and you can find it everywhere. So I'm not going to go into great detail. Well, he admits to not being such a bad guy. He admits to actually talking to the police about this. In the police officer in particular was Greg Kading, who retired some years later and put out his own book. Okay. Now, a proffer agreement for you not to be charged has 2 parts of it that are very important for this case. One is that you're not allowed to talk about the proffer. Okay. You don't speak about the stuff, information that you gave. Okay. And we just don't do that. Okay. For Keffe D, him signing it. Okay. Not exactly for law enforcement or anybody else. There's no violation there if there's people. But for Keffe D, it becomes null and void if he actually uses it in some way out there. It would be a violation of his agreement with them, so to speak, if he's out there talking about everything that he said, which you will know if you've been paying attention since he's been charged in September, and everything he did prior to that, he'd been talking about it all along. So he violated the proffer that way. And also, it has to be the truth. The information that you gave has to be the truth. You can't perjure yourself. It has to be true. If they find out anything's not, or you change your testimony, the proffer is null and void, and you could get charged for all that other stuff. Okay. So they weren't going to use the information that he gave against him back then when they did the interviews. In the information I'm going to give you, man, if you want to really get into the interviews of Greg Kading and Keffe D and all that happened, I have some sites for you that are just like, wow. Let me just throw a couple of links in here. There are interviews with one account that I really think if you really want to get into it, there are 22 interviews with this guy. To me, this Greg Kading is a key player now. And when I'm thinking about whether or not what he did, actually was he went out after he retired and he published and used the recorded interviews that he took of Keffe D that got him this proffer. Now, I don't think he did anything illegal, because obviously if he was retired and he's out there and nobody's pressed charges on him, they probably couldn't, right? But to me, something about that just seems not right. First of all, the recordings, were they his personal use? I mean, how do you make a legal proffer with personal recordings? I'm not sure. Were they in the line of duty? Did he have access to them? Are they just public record? Were they published publicly as record and then he got to use them? These are questions I haven't been able to find a good solid answer on, and I'm still looking. Okay. And I hope to be able to bring that to you soon. Okay. But anyway, Detective Kading retired from what was a robbery homicide division after 22 years of service, all the way back in June of 2010. Okay. Well after the proffer, well after Tupac's death. Okay. Years of service. That following year, he released a book. And a lot of that book, it was about the interview with Keffe D in Tupac Shakur's death. There was a lot in there. Okay. A lot of information. And he released the actual recordings and he started doing interviews and he started doing tours. In one of those YouTube channels there, Vlad, VLAD, has like a 22-part series on this whole thing. Okay. There also was, some of you may remember, the full-length documentary adapted from Greg Kading's book that began showing in 2013. Okay. He currently works as a private investigator in Southern California. And it would be good if I show you him. First of all, this is what Keffe D looks like now. This is actually taken from a hearing, not this Tuesday, but the one before, 2 months before. You remember I did tell you he now has Carl Arnold, Esquire, as his attorney. This guy is in the top 100 in the area. This guy's clever. In the hearing that happened Tuesday, which is why we're talking about Keffe D, even though I continue to research all this other stuff, the hearing is what caught my eye because, yes, Carl Arnold just came on the month before. And so, of course, rightly, the judge has said you can have some time to go over discovery. And they have now moved the hearing to July again and giving him more time. The trial is not going to be in November, although they are thinking it could be this year. They were looking at a trial date for November, but, this attorney it is a murder case. He does deserve time to go over everything and build the best defense that he can. Okay. Nope, he didn't get OJ's attorney, Mrs. Cassandra, but he was looking to get that big connected attorney. Remember, like, I was excited. I thought he was going to get that big connected attorney at the time, but he didn't. He couldn't afford them. He could not afford. He had some finance troubles going on back and forth. No, but here we go. All right. So Keffe D goes on and does all of these interviews. He's out there speaking, but we want to really talk about retired detective Greg Kading, and that is just too big. They should say Kading after that, but you can see that I messed up on my slide. Sorry about that, guys, but this is him. And Vlad did the 22-part series. That if you have time and you're interested, check it out because it was very, very informative. Very informative. Okay. So basically, and if you want to know like a little bit more about Craig Kading, Kading, which is not on the slide because it's too far over. Well, anyway, retired detective Craig Kading. There's the Wikipedia on him, and it gives you much. He came out and he started speaking, and he made a lot of money on this interview. Okay. And Keffe D saw that he did that. Okay. And this is all testimony this is all statements I'm pulling together from exactly what Craig Kading and Keffe D have said. Okay. Duane Davis has said this and he's put it out in an interview. And I'm repeating his own words here. Not word for word, but the summation. Keffe D saw that the detective was out there speaking of it. He knows that he's the one that recorded it. He knows that, like, everything that happened, he was there. He knows what he said. He knows he's making all this money. He's now sick. He's older. He's no longer in the gang making all of this money and everything. He's kind of pulled back. He's in the later years of his life. He's got some health issues and he needs money. So he figures, hey, he's out there doing it. I'm going to do it. He starts talking about it. This is how we know about him being in the car. This is how we know all the interviews that he did. And he wrote his own book a couple of years later. What was that, 2018? Right? So he starts talking about it and doing it. And he gives juicy dishes and he starts to make his money on it. But prosecution gets wind of it. And, well, that's kind of a violation. Like, now they're looking at him. What do you mean? You're out there making a fool out of us. You're saying you're in the car and you had the gun and you did all this and we didn't prosecute you. And, like, you're out there telling everybody, you're making us look like fools. That's my way I look at it, you know? I don't know. Prosecution didn't call me and tell me this. Like, but can you see that they would have been like, what? Like, they look bad. I mean, everybody is concerned about Tupac. Like, he got shot dead. Nobody's ever been prosecuted. There's all these rumors about who was in the car. People admitted to being in the car. Now they're like all dead. Everybody's talking about it, but there's no eyewitnesses. There's no physical evidence that they can use against people. I mean, they may not have had a solid case. There's a number of reasons why they didn't go forward with anything. But now to have all of it put out in the spotlight again and again, well, that's a bit embarrassing. And unfortunately for Keffe D, his breaking of the proffer, which will come up during his case and all, they wouldn't have charged him if he didn't go against the proffer. Okay. He was protected at one point, and he may have been under the assumption he still was protected, you know. But boy, did he really did give a lot of interviews. Okay. And if you listen to some of them, you can hear he enjoys talking about his past and the lifestyle that it had. He is of the opinion that, well, once I heard the interviews, he really did indicate P. Diddy. He feels that he was paid to have Tupac shot and shook because they were a problem for P. Diddy. He talks about a conversation that happened in a place where they eat, like in this basement restaurant kind of thing, and where P. Diddy just said, you know, it'd be nice if they weren't a problem anymore. And he even says that money was discussed. He never actually got paid. Apparently, P. Diddy, the story is said to be, and we'll have to wait to see if any of this comes out in trial. Well, the story is P. Diddy gave the money to somebody to give to Keffe D, and the person that he gave it to kind of kept it and did something else with it instead of paying Keffe D, because he figured Keffe D is no longer connected or a threat to him. You know, he had to be pretty brave to keep millions of dollars, because that's what we're talking about here. All right. Well, anyway, there's been lots of speculation about P. Diddy actually ordering to kind of like suggesting, ordering, whatever. No charges ever pressed against P. Diddy for it. I don't know where the investigation went with it. I do have the FBI file on Tupac, though, and there's a lot in there about it. And you'll hear in the interviews, the links that I'm giving you actually are Keffe D in that interview. On the police tape, some of them, you can actually hear the recordings, and he does indicate P. Diddy. He says it right out. But now Keffe D is changing his story. He and his lawyer are saying he lied. He lied to sell books. None of it's true. You're going to have to prove it, which is why he's charged. Because if he's now verbally saying that he lied about the information that he gave the police to procure that proffer, it makes it invalid. And this is where we sit. These are the things I don't understand. How is it that Craig Kading was able to take a police investigation interview and make all that money off of it after he retired? The actual recordings. I have to investigate to find out if they don't use certain evidence. If it's not, here's the thing that it may be, and I have to find this out for sure. And if anybody else has more information, please send it to me. I am quite willing to admit when I'm wrong or if I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm telling you right now here, I don't have anything to back up that this is just a notion that I have because I'm unable to confirm the fact that because it wasn't being used in an active investigation or a prosecutorial process, prosecution wasn't using it for evidence against anybody. It wasn't secured by the judge. It wasn't illegal to have any of it. There wasn't anything protecting it. Could that be it? Is there a loophole there that this proffer agreement, this interview rather, that made the proffer agreement possible was allowed to be out there because it wasn't being used for anything? How old the case was? It's just fascinating to me. That angle of it is very confusing, you know. And then I come across, for me, the ethical responsibilities of law enforcement. Greg Kading was a detective in robbery homicide. Speaking about Tupac and P. Diddy and that murder was in regard to the homicide. Now, he was actually using the fact that Keffe D was going to be prosecuted for drug distribution and other offenses and not the murder. This interview that he had was actually in regards to that and not the murder, even though the murder came up. But that's where I come across the moral or ethical issues of it. Like, just to use that as a loophole to walk away with this interview. I don't know. Humans are gonna human. I get that. With the opportunity on retirement to be able to make that kind of money and tell your story and be an author, of course, a fantastic life. Las Vegas is full of robbery and homicide, and every detective there has got a book to sell, guaranteed. But should that interview be out here? If there was a proffer agreement, and was that proffer agreement already broke in 2013 before we put it out? These are things I need the answers to. I don't know about you guys. Well, I'm going to speak on it because I'm curious about it. It's part of the theme of tonight's show. Was there misconduct? Did somebody drop over the line? Kind of like scratching my head, like, what the hell are you doing? You're messing up your own cases. Okay. And is the fact that this information in the proffer came from Kading and he used it that way and it enticed Keffe D to do the same thing, is that going to be used in this case? And are we not going to be able to prosecute anybody for the murder of Tupac when we actually have somebody saying he knows what happened? Is that case going to fall apart because of all of this? I'm fascinated. I need to find out. And I want to find out if P. Diddy actually is going to face charges, if that's going to come up. Because if now that Keffe D is saying what he said was all entertainment, that's the word they're using. They're saying it was all for entertainment value. The whole tour he did, everything he said, he was making money because he was sick and he was ill, and it was all entertainment. None of it's true. Nothing in the proffer is true. The interview, nothing he said out there in the interviews is true. He was just grandstanding to make money, all for entertainment value. So that makes it less likely that we're going to have P. Diddy in the witness stand or any charges against him for organizing a hit. We don't have the transfer of money. We don't have any physical kind of evidence that we've seen or heard of. Like, there could be some. We don't know about it yet until trial. Everything's kind of close. This is a dead case that just keeps getting deader and deader and colder and colder. Even when they got a hint of light at the end of the tunnel, this is what happens, Yeah, I was just joking defense. Yeah, kind of like that, Liam. It's like, I didn't know what I was talking about, but good story. Let me make $1 million off of it. Yeah. Right? It's like, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about, but let me make some money on the whole thing, Well, that's the part that was like so fascinating. But there's a song about a loophole somewhere. Oh, yeah. Yes, there is. And Mrs. Cassandra, so many people think that Diddy did it because of the conflict between the Bloods and the Crips. I mean, Keffe D actually comes out and accuses Keffe D of using the bad blood between the Crips and the Bloods. These are gang names, if you guys know. And Keffe D's one side and Suge Knight's the other side, using the conflict between their record companies. Suge Knight's record company versus P. Diddy's record company. Suge Knight actually at an award show making a diss, an underlying diss against P. Diddy's record company and himself, causing some bad blood and stuff. There's the actual incident with Orlando Bloom that Tupac Shakur, not Orlando Bloom, Orlando Anderson. Isn't Orlando Bloom that elf from, yeah, he played that elf. Never mind. He played Legolas, didn't he? Yeah, that was, all right. No, Orlando Anderson is the nephew of Keffe D, who had an altercation in a hotel in Las Vegas with Tupac, okay, that they are saying was the catalyst for Orlando Anderson and everybody wanting to get some revenge on Tupac in regards to this thing. Okay, and then Keffe D saying it, well, P. Diddy's going to pay us to take care of it anyway. Like, let's do the thing. And Keffe D being higher up in the gang and being influential to the people, the driver and the other two that are in the car, one of them being his nephew. This is Keffe D's version of it now. Okay. But also, there not being a bunch of witnesses, people not willing to name names and places, the culture. They're not going to do it. And how long that it's been. Most of the people involved in the testimony may not be able, if they have affidavits, if they have witness testimony from when the event happened, they're not going to be able to use it. It's going to be hard to get it entered because most of the people are gone. Either you can't bring them in, they've changed their mind, they don't want to testify, or they're dead. This is a cold case that, although fascinating and intriguing, and so many people want to actually see it get resolved, what I see lately is that it's dwindling. There was a little light at the end of the tunnel when they said Keffe D, they're going to use his own words against him. And he's actually said he did it. And we're finally, somebody's charged and there's going to be a trial. And we're going to put this whole thing to rest. There was a little light at the end of the tunnel then. But everything that's happened since then that I'm seeing kind of is taking that away. And that little bit of light is getting smaller and smaller, you know. Are you in Doubtsville? On which side, though, Liam? The fact that he was telling the truth and he just doesn't want to go to jail for it now? Or the fact that, I mean, that's it. Like, do you believe his first story or his second story? Do you believe that it was all entertainment? Or was he telling the truth? It really happened. I'm thinking that during those interviews that got him to Proffer, that they, Craig Kading and his partner and everybody who was involved in that investigation would have had to check out the facts, right? Of what he was talking about a little bit. It had to be plausible to them to give him the deal, right? That's what I'm thinking. Exactly. It's not like they weren't raking in tons of cash. Exactly. But there have been circles that actually believe that P. Diddy really did it. I mean, in the hip hop community, you'll see a lot of people talking about it, a lot of interviews being done. There's stuff from years ago, but it's starting to circulate again. Everything's coming back into the cycle because, Keffe D's been charged. Well, it looks like perhaps by the end of the year, we will have a trial. Perhaps not. We want him to have a fair trial. He's a damn good lawyer. He does. And I'm really curious to see where this goes. But now I want to know how this all got out here with Craig Kading to begin with. It has been going on for a long time, and I just wasn't aware of it. It is not as focused. I mean, I knew there was the interviews. I knew people were following it. I knew that the book was written. It was sensational when it came out. I mean, I read it when it came out. I read Keffe D's too. I was fascinated with the fact that somebody as famous as Tupac could get shot out in front of all those people on a strip in Las Vegas on his way to a nightclub. Okay. Somebody could pull up and shoot them and he can die in the hospital a couple of days later They know he was with Suge Knight. They know they've been looking at Suge Knight for other things. I mean, he's in jail right now too. They know he's connected, and no one was charged. Nothing happened. Years and years and years. And you know, you can put Tupac's name in now and tons of stuff will come up. It's not like it ever died down. We're moving to 30 years. We're getting towards 30 years before this all gets like said and done. If it gets said and done. But anyway, let me just check for questions. That was my presentation for the night. A lot of shenanigans in the legal system, a lot of misconduct, or what I'm looking at as misconduct. Let's be clear, just my opinion. And I've got to say it like I always do. I'm just a woman named Bear who wears cat ears and has a microphone. I'm not a lawyer. I have a fascination with this stuff, and I admit it. It's my hobby. That's just how I see it. I see a lot of shenanigans going on. I see lawyers that don't act like lawyers, that act like public relations teams. I see lawyers lying outright before they get into court and then having to backpedal like they never said anything. You know, I'm seeing some what could be allegedly prosecutorial. I'm going to stumble over that word until I get it right. Prosecutorial misconduct in the Florida case. It seems like a bit of reach. It seems like a little bit of witness harassment there. I don't know. Like, I got to see where that ends up. You know, I see a lot of misinformation in the Tate case. You know, for lawyers to actually come out and say a judicial review did something unlawful, I'm sorry, but I see the joke there. Do you not? Yes. Tate's lawyers actually coming out and saying the judicial process in Romania, these were Romanian lawyers, by the way, it's unlawful. Yeah. Because they didn't find anything in their motions that they would agree with. So it's unlawful. Okay. Anyway, I think that in the Romanian government has a totally different process. The judicial system is totally different, but I have to admire how they pre-screen stuff before it gets to trial. That alone would save a lot of stuff here. We do have a way to do it here. We've got what we call pre-trial hearings. We have a hearing where you got to just prove, if you didn't go to a grand jury for the indictment, you've got to prove that there's enough evidence for the judge to push it forward to trial. We did that with Larry Millett. You guys that have been here for a while, we covered that. Larry Millett's pretrial hearings and the evidence that came out. In case you don't recognize the name, that's the man who paid the witches to put spells on his wife because she wasn't in love with him anymore. And she disappeared one day and the body's never been found. And the family thinks that he did it, and the kids were in the house, and you know, they have evidence that she was in the house and never left the house, but he left the house with the small son of his and a bunch of stuff in a van. But anyway, we'll get to that because his trial is coming up and we're going to cover it. But there was a pre-trial hearing and we got to hear like the evidence and everything. We have processes to keep the checks and balances, to keep the misconduct in check, so to speak. You can't just say and do whatever you want. Okay. Evidence has to be backed up. Evidence has to be done in a certain way. Motions have to be filed. Timelines have to be met. Procedure needs to be in order for everything to go smoothly. And we have what they call status hearings and pretrial conferences in timelines and schedules that have to be kept, which do kind of the same thing that the Tate's case is going through in Romania with the judicial process of pre-screening everything ahead. Only they do it a little different. They put all the evidence in the case there in front of a tribunal. They go through it and make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And if they're not, all they do is send it back to prosecution and say, do better. We're not wasting our time on this unless you do better. They value the time of the court system and the judicial process 100%. I would imagine most American judges, which is that way, was that way. Because I do see a lot of our American judges with their heads tilted a little bit, like what they've got to deal with in the courtroom, you know. But on that was it for tonight. Let me just go through real quickly. I will see you all tomorrow morning, or those of you that care to join me for Chad Daybell. We're going to start again at 10:15 tomorrow morning. They're going to start with testimony at 8:30, according to Judge Boyce. And that trial itself has had quite a lot of early dismissals and days off. And granted, they gave me the day off today, which put me in such a damn good mood, as you can tell. No trial today. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Mark, I'm more than just a woman. Wow. Part bear? Like, wow. Thank you for joining my feel good train today, Mark. Like you're really getting up there with the brownie points. Like you really are, almost more than a woman. Thank you very much, Sean. And Liam is answering me. He says, I think he was involved, but bigged himself up afterwards to make money from the notoriety and is now backpedaling because it looks like he is up for the whole thing. Exactly. Being the last man standing, it's all going to come on him because there's years of them not being able to do anything. And if they can get it done, I think you're right. I think it's a pretty scary position to be the last man standing. And the one that everybody's looking at here. I think he might have bigged it up. I think, when you guys go listen to some of those interviews, hear how he talks, hear how much he enjoys talking about the life and having that camera pointed at him. This is what I noticed. I think there's a lot to say about it could have been all entertainment. It could have been a way to make money. And now what's he going to do about it? Because they took him seriously and he may go to jail for it. Yeah, it could be. It could also very well, everything he said is true. And he just doesn't want to go to jail for it. And his attorney could use this entertainment factor, ethically responsible or not, to get him off. Because it is the defense's job to use every loophole they can find. Make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed so that they get a fair trial. And his job is to make sure he doesn't go to jail for murder. Thank you, Mimpit. Thank you, Mrs. Cassandra. What? We could pay witches for spells like that? Guys, I am a witch and I am selling spells at a great discount. No guarantees on the outcome. That's exactly what the witch told Larry Millette too. He spent a lot of money. He really did. And he just wanted his wife to fall back in love with him. He wanted to control her. He was very manipulative. It's a dynamite case. I think you'd like it, Juju. I hope you follow me for it. I do. I think you're going to enjoy it. But anyway, that's it for tonight. It is now time for the outro. And for those of you that'll be joining me tomorrow, I'll see you then. Coffee hot, attitude strong. Hopefully this good mood weather's over. And I'm going to just go get everything set up for the morning. Let's hope that the tech gods will be kind to me and that big black cloud has moved away and everything goes as smoothly. Oh, Juju, looks like you got a bite here. Let's see. Thank you for reminding them, Mrs. Cassandra. And by the way, I just found out that over 60% of my views come from people that don't bother to hit the subscribe button. What's wrong with you all? Are you lazy? Do you like looking for videos? Why not just hit it so you get the notification? Because obviously you kind of like to follow some of the stuff. And yeah, you don't have to watch everything. And, but come on, it means a lot to a bear. Hit the subscribe button. I mean, I'm sure it matters to more people than really not as much to me, but I would like to know if you're watching, you at least say so. Hit the button. Hit the button. Yep. As long as you don't sell bath water, I'll respect you in the morning, B. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Witches can make money. Witches can make money. I don't know. It's funny. It's definitely funny. Yeah, it actually is. Juju, there are women Twitchers that actually fart in glass jars to sell it. Like Juju, oh my gosh, you gotta watch some of our WTFs with Mrs. Cassandra and Record. Like some of the stuff that was going on Twitch was absolutely crazy. They sell bath water, they sell farted air, you name it. And let's not get to the beer. Yeah. Anyway, look up Jilly Juice. Exactly. Way long ago. Yup. Absolutely crazy. All right, guys. I'll see some of you tomorrow. Oh, hopefully I will be able to do another one of these maybe towards the end of the week. There's more cases to talk about. Don't forget to like, share, comment. Please put your comments and questions on the back of the videos. All of that helps the algorithm. Plus, I always answer. You got something you want to say about it or something you want me to look up? Just let me know. And I look forward to hearing from you. Everybody have a great night.